everybody, and welcome to SL24 our newest podcast by Sean's House and Unlock the Light Foundation. My name is Samantha Knoll. I am the communications specialist here at Sean's House, and I'm here with guest Missy Marazzo,
so here we go.
who is our new social media manager and who was a Peer 24 lead. Okay, so here we go. The first question is, who are you?
So I am Missy Marazzo. I'm 23 years old and I'm from Wilmington, Delaware. I just graduated from the University of Delaware in the spring with a major in media communications. I graduated with my Bachelor of Arts. Since then, I did some traveling after graduation and then I started working here. So I now work at Sean's House and SL24 as a social media manager. And I actually have been working for Sean's House for a year, and I've been volunteering with Sean's House for 2 years. Sean's House is a big part of who I am, and I've just always had a passion for mental health, and this kind of just ties so perfectly into my life. But so before I came to UD, I transferred to UD. I started at High Point University in North Carolina, and I was there for 2 years, and I was really, really struggling with my mental health, and I decided to leave, and it was a really, really hard decision for me. But then I decided to take a year off and really work on myself and travel. And then I eventually ended up transferring to UD. But I feel like that is all really important parts of my story because those things really make me who I am and kind of add to the non-linear journey I've had, especially in college. I'll talk about this more later, but I've always dealt with mental illness since the beginning of high school. So this organization is something that's so near and dear to my heart. So it just really fits into who I am.
And was there anything in particular that brought you here to Sean's House, or was it just kind of fate?
Yeah, so I found out about the training cohort when I was about to transfer here. And so I was just on a whim, I applied for the training cohort and I got in and I did the training and I loved it. And I was like, this is perfect. I'm really, really nervous to start at a new school where all my friends are going to be the year above me now. And I don't really know that many people. So that's what brought me here originally. And then I started volunteering at Sean's House in October of 2022. And it ended up being such an amazing thing. And I became a peer lead last year. And I've met so many of my best friends through this organization. So I don't really know what brought me here originally. It was just a random, someone sent me the application, but it ended up being one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Gotcha. And you mentioned your time as a peer lead. What was your favorite aspect of being a peer lead before you turned into the social media manager that you are today?
Yeah. I think my favorite part of both being a peer and a peer lead is just being the person to someone else that I wish I had during my recovery journey. And I think that's what motivated me to stay as a peer, become a peer in the first place. And I gave less support as a peer lead than I did as a peer, but it was just still that opportunity to be that what I needed. And I just loved giving back in that way. So that was definitely my favorite aspect, as well as just being around the house more and getting to meet more of the peers, peer leads and guests, and really form that relationship with them. And I have a relationship with everyone in this house, and that's just so special to me.
Yeah, that's awesome. One more quick question before we wrap up question number one. What are you passionate about outside of work aside from mental health and communications?
Well, those are my two passions pretty much. This job is a really great combination of them, but I'm a huge reader. I read a lot. I love to travel, and I love to take pictures, videos, content, and hang out with my family.
Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that. We will move on to question number two, which is, what has been a lock in your life?
Yeah, so I think a lock in my life has just been my journey with mental health. I think in a lot of ways it's also been a weird light too, because my journey with mental health and not figuring out, but kind of overcoming certain things in my mental health journey has really made me so much stronger. And I think that those things really made me who I am.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think that struggling with mental health is something that's been a huge lock in my life, specifically because I struggle with ADHD, but I didn't know it was ADHD until I was older. So when I was in high school, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and they just kind of thought it was kind of like a severe, form of anxiety and depression. But then when I got to college, they were like, I think you have ADHD, and I think that your anxiety and depression is stemming from your ADHD instead of the other way around. And so once I started to treat that more than my anxiety and depression, a lot of things like fell into place for me. And it was things that I didn't necessarily realize weren't normal, like the way that I learn things and the way I react to things. I didn't know that that wasn't like how you're supposed to react and learn and do certain things. So I think that was a huge lock, was just like a misdiagnosis, basically.
Yeah.
And another thing is I really didn't know how much ADHD plays into your life. Like it's so much more than just not being able to pay
Yeah.
attention or not being able to read something or comprehend. It's so much more than that. And it affects your mental well-being so much because it's a constant doubting of yourself. It's a constant lack of motivation, and it just kind of makes you like really self-deprecate yourself in a lot of different aspects. So that has been a huge lock in my life until I figured out like what was going on and I was able to treat it. And since then, it's like I've really been able to get to such a better place, but not knowing what it was a huge lock.
Okay, awesome. Well, that wraps up our time for question number 2. Thank you for sharing. I had a lot of follow-up questions, but we got to keep it short and sweet here with our 24/7 theme. So we'll move on to question number 3. What is one thing you want the world to know about Sean's house? Your number one passion. Let's go.
I think one thing I want people to know about Sean's house is you do not have to be in a crisis situation to come here. You don't have to be depressed. You don't have to have a mental illness to enjoy the space and to use it as a safe place. And I don't necessarily think that that's a misconception that people have, but I think people think of it as like a place to go to get help. But I see this place as so much more than that. This place has been somewhere I consider home for the past 2 years. And there are so many amazing people in this place. And that's really what makes it a home to me. And I think that people aren't aware that this is a resource open to you to just be and to just come and hang out with people and meet new people and hang out with dogs and do your homework. And this just offers such a safe place to just live. And especially being right off a college campus, college is really stressful. So I think that's something I want people to know, is that you don't have to be like really struggling to come here. You can always come here and enjoy the resources, and just kind of like hang out and relax.
So what is it like? You said it's like home to you. What is it like working at home?
Weird.
Yeah.
It's special because I really don't feel like I'm working half the time, which is a weird like mind balance. Because sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm not working. What am I doing? But it's just such an incredible environment where everyone is so understanding, and it's so rare that you have a work environment like this. And I think that's what makes it so special. Is this is probably one of the only times in my life I'll experience a work environment like this. And I'm so thankful that this is the second time I've gotten to work in this environment. But it is interesting. It definitely is a big shift. If you've ever had like a different job, especially a corporate job, coming to this, it can be different. But I think that it's so incredible and so unique because it's so accepting and understanding.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. We love having you here. Is there anything in particular that makes Sean's house stand out, other than the things you already mentioned, with the sense of community, the dogs, all of that fun stuff?
I think what makes us stand out is that there's really not that many places like us, and not that many places where you can go and get help at 3 a.m., at 2 p.m., anything like that, and you're just talking to someone. Like, how many places can you just go and chat to someone? Like, completely free, not medical,
Clinical, yeah.
not clinical. Yeah, exactly. It's genuinely just such a unique experience, and I think that's what makes it stand out, because there's no other place like Sean's house.
Yeah, there definitely isn't. We are one of a kind. Well, thank you All right, so we will be moving on to question number 4. Who or what has been a lighthouse for you in your mental health journey?
I think my biggest lighthouse has been my mom and my dad, but my mom has always been such a comforting person to
Mhm.
me. And not to say it isn't, Dad, if you're watching this, I love you.
Yeah.
But my mom has just always been such a comforting person to me because she, I don't think she always necessarily got it at the beginning.
Mhm.
And she didn't make me feel like there was anything wrong with me, even though she hadn't understood at the time. She never made me feel like something was wrong. And she was like, I may not understand, but I'm here for you and I'm going to help you and we're going to do what we can. And that was just like what I needed. I didn't necessarily need someone who knew everything. I just needed someone to tell me that I was okay and that I was going to be okay. And I think that's why she's been such a light in my journey.
Mhm.
The other person I would say is my younger sister. And the thing about that is, I'm not even sure if she's aware that she's been such a lighthouse for me.
She will be now.
Yes, now you know. Um, but I think being an older sister is such a big part of who I am and a big part of my
Uh-huh.
life. And I just adore her so much. And my whole life, I've just been trying to set that good example for her. And I think that I always knew, like, in my really, really dark places where I knew I did not want to be here anymore, she was kind of one of the people that would come to the back of my mind, like, okay, she needs me. And
Mhm.
it was sort of the thing, like, I'm going to live for her until I'm okay to live for me again. And so, in this weird way, she's definitely saved my life more times than she knows. And so, she's been such a big part of that because I just have always wanted to be there for her. And so, my like love for her is kind of like what's kept me alive. So, I
That's
would say she's my lighthouse.
beautiful, and I'm sure she will be very pleased to
Yeah.
watch this. How can you be a lighthouse for someone who's struggling with their own mental health journey?
Yeah, I think that honestly, being a lighthouse is just being there someone for someone and always going that step beyond. And something that's so important too is that the smallest thing that maybe just a few minutes in your day can mean
Oh,
everything to someone
absolutely, yeah.
else. And I think that's really what I've learned about um, being a lighthouse in other people's journey is just being there for them and letting them know, like, hey, like, I'm seriously, like, I'm here for you, whatever you need. And actually staying true to that
Mhm.
and always reaching out to check in how they are, like doing small things that you know will bring a smile to their face. And I think it's just that like the smallest little things can help someone and you never know how much it can actually help them.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that someone needs to understand somebody's personal mental health struggles to be a lighthouse, or do you think it can, they can do that without understanding fully?
That's a really good question. I do not think that someone needs to understand. And I think most of the time, and almost all the time, we don't. I think, a lot of people, when they're trying to comfort you, they'll be like, oh, I understand. But truly, you don't because everyone's story and everyone's journey is so different. And I kind of think that's what makes it so great is kind of like, hey, I can't imagine what you're going through right now. I can't imagine how this is affecting you, but I'm here to support you. And I don't have to understand what's going on to know that you need me. And I'm willing to be here in any capacity you need.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, and we will move on to question number 5. Our mission is to educate, assist, and support, as you know. Which do you see as the most crucial to your role at Sean's House and why?
Okay, so I think the most important part to my role is to educate. As social media manager, my job is to educate people on different aspects of mental health and use my platform as a way to do that. So I do that in a number of different ways, but one of the big things is teaching people things that they might not recognize as different parts of mental health. So, for example, imposter syndrome, not everyone knows that those thoughts that you have about not being good enough, not being able to do a certain thing, are thoughts that other people have too.
Hmm.
And there's a label to that, and there's ways to help. And so I think that's why education in my role is so important because you can use the platform in any creative capacity you want to teach people about mental health and educate them. And
Awesome. Well, thank you for answering that. Okay, so we're out of time for question number 5. On to question number 6. If you're helping a friend, what are the top 3 things you would do to support them? And this can be things you would offer, physical things, words of encouragement, anything like that.
So the first thing I do is I ask, but I ask if they want a hug and if that'll help them or not.
Hmm.
I love getting a hug, so I will always ask someone. And if they do, I will always give them a great big hug.
Yeah.
And just kind of like ask them like, hey, what do you need from me? Like, what is gonna help you? What's gonna hurt you? And what can I do? Do you want me to just listen to you? Do you want me to give you advice? Like, what is going to help you? And that's something that's always really worked for me. Another thing I'd love to do is it's small, but I love to give people baked items.
Hmm.
And I love to make my friends like brownies or cookies or
That sounds
anything.
delicious.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
great. When they're feeling down, because I think that like a small effort goes a really long way. And it could take like, I don't know, 30 minutes, an hour of my day, but it could mean so much to someone else. And I think that that could be in a lot of different things, just like checking in on your friends, doing small things, helping them out, like especially like roommates and friends, helping them out in things that they might not want to do right then, and just kind of like little gestures like that that take you a few minutes could really make someone's day. So I think those are things I love to do for my friends. I just love when my friends are happy and hate when they're sad, and so I will really do anything to make them feel better. But I think something that's so big is just being there, and just letting them know that you're there, whether it's physically, whether it's emotionally, whether they can like text you at 3 a.m., whether
Hmm.
you'll call them and check in, and just really making sure that you're checking in on them. I think that's so important. And that's something I really try to be good at, because I want my friends to know that I'm always there for them and they've been there for me. So I'm going to do the same. So those are just all things I like to do when my friends need me.
Well, that sounds awesome. It sounds like your friends are lucky people. I know I'm lucky to have you as a colleague. Um, yeah, on to question number 7, which question number 7, as you can see here, is a blank cue card. The reason behind this is question number 7 will be given from the last podcast guest. So, since this is our first episode, we do not have a last podcast guest, but I did ask our executive director, Zach Ryan, to give us a little question here for Missy. And Missy has no idea what it says, so she's going to be very surprised. So, Missy, this is coming from Zach, the man himself. You are an incredible communications whiz. So, we would like to know who is one person you would put on the Mount Rushmore of communicators and why.
That's a great question. I think someone I would put is Anna Sitar. She is an influencer type. She does like Instagram, TikTok. She recently started a podcast. The reason I say her is because I've started following her back in 2020, and all of her content has always just been about joy, and how to find joy, how to be joyful. She's just like very much so like sunshine in a person. But I think what makes her so relatable is that she's very upfront and open about those times when she isn't doing well, and very upfront and open about what she does when she's not doing well and how to feel better. And I think that's so important. And the reason I resonate with her content so much is because that was the first time I really saw content like that and realized that you can make content about mental health without it being so heavy, and
Hmm.
without it feeling so like clinical and like you're pushing something on someone. And so that's really where my like love for creating content like this began, because I realized what you could do with it. So she makes a lot of different like small short films, and just a lot of different content like that. And it was so powerful to me to see how a small 1 minute video can elicit so much emotion, can make you feel so many things, and can make you realize so many different things about just mental health and just how to be a good human, basically. And so that's kind of what got me into wanting to do this, because I realized that I can make content about mental health that can help people, but that can also be fun. That can also be entertaining. That could also be silly at
It's
times, funny
very
at times.
engaging.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the first time I realized, like, hey, you don't have to do this extraordinary thing to make a difference. Like, you can make a 30-second video that may make someone smile, may make someone laugh, it may teach them something. So that's why I would put her on Mount Rushmore, because I think she's awesome, and I think that she inspires a lot of people to make content that will make other people happy.
Well, that is awesome. You're doing a great job here as a social media manager at Sean's house. And there you have it, the new Mount Rushmore. Anyways, that's question 7. That concludes our episode 1 of SL24/7. Thank you for being a part of this, and congratulations on being the first guest.
Thank you for having me.